Hello, hello. Let's Om in today. So find a comfortable seat. Bring your hands together. Close your eyes. And just take a couple breaths and maybe wiggle a little bit or roll your shoulders or make some faces or fix your yoga straps, whatever you got. Yoga clothing straps. And then take a moment to dedicate your class to somebody who you want to. It can be for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes I dedicate my classes to people I'm struggling right now to express love to, or sometimes I dedicate my class to people who I find inspiring. Sometimes I dedicate my class to somebody who's passed over to the other side. So really, whoever, but picture them smiling and thriving and alive. And then empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. And then relax your hands down, open your eyes. And we're going to do, of course, one of my favorite series on the kidneys today. So, which one are we going to do? Let's start with reclining butterfly pose. Just to mix it up a little. So, reclining butterfly, I know this is one of life's great mysteries, but it's the same as yin's fish. Yin fish. Fish yin? So you want to put your heels 2 hands length away from your groin and then settle back onto your elbows. See if you can relax your head back. If that's cool for you, just let your head hang. If it's aggravating to your neck, you can always bring your chin towards your chest. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. And just take these first couple of breaths in your shape and your form to make the small, micro little adjustments if you need to. And then allow yourself to soften while you're in the form, just engaging enough muscle to stay in the shape. And then make that inner shift, being willing to stay through being annoyed or bored or uncomfortable, not through sharp pain, but in these small celebrations of staying, even when we might want to just leave. So with the kidneys and the urinary bladder, this organ pair, one of the themes that is played out on every level is about being at home. Being at home in our bodies, in our relationships, in our choices, in our environment, in the cosmos. And then go ahead and just let your elbows start to slide out, letting your head come down to the ground. And you can either let your hands kind of today settle on your hips or your hip flexors. So kind of just it seems like they fit perfectly right in the divot underneath your hip bones. So in trying to experience our wholeness, we want to honor every part of our being. So the parts from like the little toes and your elbows and the back of your left ear to, your sensations, your feelings, your thinking, and even including your unconsciousness, your subconscious mind, the part of us that we can't name or understand yet, and even including the parts of us that haven't quite become yet. So in a way, that's part of like the yin mystery of ourselves. How do we include space for our own becoming, for our own transformation? Now with your next inhale, bring your hands together in prayer. And we're going to do this nice reenactment of our hands like a plant lifting up towards the ceiling, lifting up, and then lift up your feet, kind of matching them like you've got a tree in a bush, and then dive up, maybe making small adjustments and coming straight into butterfly pose, bending forward, bowing forward. Make the adjustments, wiggle, sigh, moan and groan, whatever works. So we've been living in a world that it's so crazy how easily and socially acceptable it is to be totally divided. That we have kind of, one life at home in our family and that social circles. Then we have this separate life at work, maybe at school. Kind of one set of relationships that you meet when you go to the gym and another set of relationships when you go to the ashram. But that we not only does that happen to us culturally, where we find different communities wherever we go, but that we kind of do it in ourselves too. Like my intimate partner will get to hear more of my insecurities or more of my undigested reactions. than anybody else. And that when we're in other settings, like this part of our personality or that part of our personality gets highlighted. But trying to work with holism and unity and bringing together these different parts of ourselves, we want to start to notice that, everywhere we go, we bring with us a capacity to be kind, a capacity to love, a capacity to be present. So in the kidneys, this sense of being home reflects the health of the kidneys. And another layer that the kidneys are connected to is our willpower, our will forces. With your next inhale, roll up and stretch your legs out. You can turn sideways on your yoga mat if you prefer. Maybe you're on a carpet anyway, so it's pretty soft underneath your heels. And we're going to do dragonfly side bends. So stretching out our intercostal muscles, the sides of our bodies. So the first side, let's take our left and slide our arm down our leg. Maybe our hand can reach our head. Maybe our head's just hanging towards our leg. Either way, stretch your right arm up and then drape your arm over your ear, kind of letting it be soft, but not letting your chest drop towards the ground or close off. So you feel that stretch is still really only on the side of your torso. Maybe you can reach your toes, maybe not quite today. Wherever you're at, take a big inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. I'll keep an eye on the clock so we don't stay there too long. Now, this quality of presence that I've hinted at, that we, or that I've hinted at. I've suggested that when we go in certain places in our life, we show certain parts of ourselves and maybe not our whole self. And what I find is that, people can really turn on their attention and presence and turn it back off again. So for a lot of us, the habit maybe has been developed where, if I'm on the bus or on the train, I kind of shut down as being my radiant self or being available or being present. Nowadays we see so many eyes turned down to the phone, and it really, you can see the person just kind of left the building. As a great author said, watching people disappear into the fog, or was it the twilight of social media, and they're gone. We see it nearly daily nowadays. With your next inhale, lift up allowing your breath to temper the feeling and sensation. And we're going to go straight into the other side, sliding your right hand down your right leg. Maybe you can catch your head. Maybe your head's just hanging. One side might be different than the other side. And then lift up your left arm and drape it over your ear. Maybe your hands reach this side. Maybe not. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. Now, I don't imagine that there's so many people who are like, oh, I'm going on the train, let me turn off my presence. Like, it's not even really a blip on the radar. It's just like, that's normal. That's what people do. But what happens, I think, is that people, like, we get in the habit of being able to be kind of checked out and mentally other places while our body moves around, even while we meet other humans and see other eyes looking back at us out in the world. And so ultimately, we're really striving to be present in our lives. That is the gift. That's what we're here on earth for. And interestingly enough, it's where our body and physicality thrives the most is when we're present. Even at the end of a weird, uncomfortable stretch, we want to stay present. And we can do this through different ways. Keeping our attention in the form, listening, observing. All of these are tools to help us stay present. But tools that don't run without our will. And then inhale, lift up to center. And we're going to come to the center. So we're going to come forward in an active spine, and only once we've hinged forward, so to say, soften the spine to allow the ligaments around our spine to stretch. So maybe you have little spiders in your hands, you walk your hands forward, and then you can pull your chest forward, maybe even roll like the top of your thigh bones back. And then come down. Wherever down is for you today. Maybe your head can rest in your hands. Another nice in-between is you can have something to rest your head on, like a block, or your hands if your elbows reach the floor. But only once you've come to forward do you soften your spine and let all the muscles around your spine relax. So even in yin yoga, we can use our locks, our bandhas. Okay, maybe we should better say it like this. Even in yin yoga, we can engage our bandhas. And, in vinyasa or a hot, fiery kundalini practice or Bikram practice, there's a lot more like muscle and rhythm and action and heat. But even in those classes, the effort that we exert to engage a bandha is a very gentle, persistent effort. So it doesn't go counter to what we're doing in a yin class. So you can, in this posture, you might even be able to feel that you can subtly engage your perineum and lift it up away from the floor. And you might also feel that when the first time you do it, like your feet flex, your thighs engage, and you're moving into a yang posture because we're more used to engaging our locks in the yang process. But even just this slight attention and lift is the beginning of this gentle, persistent awareness. So it's this quality of effort and will that we want to also turn to staying present in ourselves throughout our day and our tasks. No matter who we're meeting, where we are, or what time of day it is. Take a full inhale with your exhale, just sigh out. Notice your body maybe soften a little bit. Notice your bandha usually let go and maybe re-engage. You can also do the very gentle Uddiyana Bandha, just pulling attention to 2 fingers below your belly button. But you know, so many of us go to the gym. No, let me rephrase. I don't go to the gym, but a lot of people do. But work out and like do a yoga practice to get strong and to get flexible, and like we've really built up our capacity to be strong and to be strong in our willpower. Like we can hold down a job, I'm going to show up at the same place at the same time, and we're using a lot of force to do things. But we're not very experienced with being persistently engaged, in attention, present. Because that force is different than just a brute muscle force. It's a force of concentration, nearly. Start to walk your hands back towards your hips, and you might even have to gather your legs back up with your hands, or maybe you've fallen asleep there, and you can bend your knees, and you can actually hug into yourself, grabbing your knees and letting your head drop to your knees. And then roll up your head, and we're going to do a Sphinx pose. Measuring that your elbows are shoulder distance apart. And you can have your elbows slightly in front of your shoulders. It's actually the nice passive place for them to be, relaxing your hands forward. Maybe you have your hands in prayer, but I prefer having them forward. And then take your legs as comfortably wide as is comfortable for you. Excuse me. Let your shoulders relax down your back. Feel like there's a lightness in your neck and your head. Imagine someone's maybe lifting you up by the tips of your ears. Or you can also sometimes imagine it by just pulling the back of your head back a little bit. But you can find the place where your alignment gives you a sensation of lightness. So a lot of our stories about will, or our picture of the will, in our fairy tales and our upbringing, it's been focused on, going out and slaying the dragon. It's been focused on how we come out of our home and come out of ourselves and exert effort and power and strength over something. and something, some often material thing. But this inner exercise of the will has a much finer, subtler quality to it. So just, once, if we're in a situation that is pleasureful for us, paying attention is easy and light. Staying present is seemingly automatic. But when we don't want to be doing something and we have to do it, or we are doing tasks that are mundane, ordinary, necessary, those are the moments where we actually have the freedom to be attentive and present and engaged if we want. Or it's easy to check out. Remember though, like having the experience of like riding home from somewhere and not even remembering how you got home because you weren't paying attention to riding your bike. Like it happens automatically. But on another day, you could go the same route and you can be so delighted with the world and you notice this and you notice that and oh my gosh, did you see that? We have so much freedom. And we even have the freedom to just not be present. And we also have so much freedom that we might have fooled ourselves into thinking will is only something about our exertion and how we come out of ourselves to meet the world, and that it is a mute question or it doesn't have anything to do with feeling freedom in our inner lives. Now, either stay in this pose in Sphinx, or if you would like, for another minute, lift your arms, stretching your Sphinx into a seal. You can make the adjustments with your arms, little seal, big seal, or a seal that looks exactly like a Sphinx. But, in our divine beingness, we have so much freedom that we have the freedom to check out, we have the freedom to do things wrong, we have the freedom to be evil, we have the freedom to be good. There's nothing, there's no, all the forces, there's like force available for darkness or for light, for staying asleep or in the dream, or for waking up and using our dreams. Clearly, there's no mandate that says we have to love. It is not yet part of our job application to be loving and kind. What's your capacity? Let's see if we'll call you back or not. But really, this is what we are after and what lights us up. What allows our presence to be effortless. And then slowly start to release yourself down to the yoga mat, maybe wiggling. You can always bend your knees and throw your legs side to side, sashaying your legs side to side. And then we are going to transition into, we're going to go into saddle pose. So we've just been in Sphinx and Seal, and saddle pose is less of a back bend, but it's more intense on the front of our thighs and the tops of our feet. So sitting on your heels, come back onto your elbows, let your head release maybe all the way down to the ground. Maybe not right away, all the way. You can put bolster underneath your shoulders, but make sure that you have this empty space underneath the curve of your back. Take a full inhale with your exhale, sigh it out. So even though there's no place in our job application that says, how loving are you? How genuinely compassionate are you? We want to pretend like that's our 24/7 kind of mandate, that we actually, that's what we're here for. That is the biggest task that we have. I was listening to Gigi Young, and she brought up the quote, or not quote, idiom, I guess it would be a saying, that if God has brought someone into your life, God has brought you someone to love. Like that can be our spiritual work, like period. And we have this tendency still to perpetuate the illusion of us and them, that this is my private life and then there's this public life, and nary the two shall meet. Or my inner life doesn't affect my physical body or my, outside life. But actually, the older we get, the more we live in our own biography, the more we're taught again and again that that's just not true. That what you think is actually one of the most critical things in your well-being. That being able to notice that you have a choice of whether or not to be present is one of the biggest actual responsibilities we have. And how easily and socially acceptable it can be to withdraw our love or block it or pretend like it's not there or not possible. But really, what we want to refine and create more capacity for is to live up to everybody that's brought into my life has been brought into my life so I can love them. And of course, honey, we don't love all the people the same way because nobody wants to be loved the same way. But you can genuinely love the humanity of a stranger without it needing to be an exchange of fluids or intimate or acknowledged. We can use this really fine will, the nature of the will that we use in our inner life. And then start to help yourself up, one elbow at a time. And we're going to finish by pulling the cat's tail. Since we started in a fish that was actually a reclining butterfly. So come lying onto your left side. Stretch your right leg straight out from your hip. So it's a little higher than we usually like to put our leg. And either stay here reaching for your left heel, pulling your left heel to your buttocks. Or you can let your shoulders roll down to the ground, adding a twist. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. It used to happen all the time in heaven, and someday it will happen again on earth. That men and women who are married, and men who are lovers, and women who give each other light, often will get down on their knees, and while so tenderly holding their love's hand, with tears in their eyes, will sincerely speak, saying, "My dear, how can I be more loving to you? How can I be more kind?" These words were written down by Hafiz, but probably not in English. But they've lasted through hundreds and hundreds of years, and they are just as relevant, if not more. Our task is of these very subtle natures, staying present in ourselves, applying will not as force, like a brute force, not as domination, not as conquering anybody, but applying will so that we can share the power of love, this transformative quality. And then roll back to center. And come to the other side. Coming into beach asana first. Stretch your left leg out from your hip. Notice how it wants to be a little bit below your hip. Encourage your leg to be hip level or higher. Reach back, hold on to your right heel, pulling your heel to your buttocks. And sometimes when you roll your shoulders onto the ground, reaching your heel a little further away from your buttocks is actually the sweet spot, a little bit more challenging. You'll feel it. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh it out. You know, this part of you that's always present in every moment of your day, but in every yoga class. You know, this is part of where the source is for your presence and your will and your capacity to love. It comes from that very tender and subtle, fine inner elements. Maybe it's a little bit, if we imagined what would it be like to give all the sunshine back that we've received? Take 5 more full breaths before you unwind your posture and prepare for Shavasana. Covering your eyes if you want, having your feet as wide as the yoga mat, palms open to receive. If your lower back is sensitive, you can always have your feet as wide as the yoga mat and just let your knees drop back together, letting your back muscles a chance to really relax. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Feel your presence carried on your breath. Maybe wiggle the edges. And then stretch your hands and arms over your head, reaching your whole body long. With your inhale. And with your exhale, roll into a ball. Curling up. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands to heart center. Lift up an image of the person you dedicated your class to. You can think of all the faces you thought of during class or that you saw or you're seeing. And let's close our practice with one Om. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Woo! Woo! Yeah. Thank you so much.